Hello everyone, this is Saurabh from Edureka, and in today's session we'll be focusing on Python Selenium. So without any further ado, let us move forward and have a look at the agenda for today. First, we'll understand what is functional testing. Then we'll focus on Selenium and understand what exactly it is. And then we'll see the binding between Selenium and Python. After that, we'll get started with our first code, and then we'll learn how to locate various elements from the page source. So you can locate elements by ID, name, class, hyperlinks, all those things we are going to see later in session. And finally, I'm going to tell you how to test the username and password for Facebook login. So I hope you all are clear with the agenda. So let us understand what exactly is functional testing. So functional testing basically means you're testing the application against the business requirements. Functional testing is a software testing process used within the software development in which software is tested to ensure that it conforms to all the requirements. Now, functional testing involves evaluating and comparing each software function with the business requirements. So you have certain requirements. So what are you going to do? You're going to check the functions of your software based on those business requirements. Software is tested by providing it with some related input so that the output can be evaluated to see how it conforms, relates, or even varies compared to its base requirements. So basically you give certain inputs and you know what should be the output, and then you're going to compare the actual output with the expected output. That's what basically functional testing is. Now there are various steps in order to perform functional testing. Let us have a look at those steps one by one. So first you need to identify the function of that particular software that you want to test on. After that, you create the input based on the specification of your function. Then in the third step, you determine the output based on the input that you have provided. And in our fourth step, you are going to execute the test cases. And after executing the test cases, you're going to see the actual output and the expected output. You're going to compare both of them. And then finally, you're going to check whether the application works as per the customer needs. So this is basically a general overview of what is functional testing. So let's move forward and understand what exactly is Selenium. So what is Selenium? Selenium is basically a web testing tool which uses simple scripts to run tests directly within a browser. Or in simple terms, you can even say that it automates browsers. Now it is a portable software testing framework for web applications that provides a record or playback tool for authoring tests. And let me tell you guys, Selenium also provides a test domain specific language, Selenium, to write tests in a number of popular languages. For example, you have Perl, Java, PHP, Python, Groovy. So you can write tests in any of these programming languages. Now these tests can be run against most of the modern web browsers. So you can run those tests on Google Chrome, on Internet Explorer, Mozilla Firefox, or you can even run it on Safari. So this is what exactly Selenium is. So let us move forward and understand the binding between both of them. That is Selenium and Python. So Selenium Python binding provides a simple API to write functional tests using Selenium Webdriver. This is where you write your functional tests using Selenium Webdriver. After that, you send a request to Selenium server. The Selenium server then runs those tests on various browsers. It can be Google Chrome, Internet Explorer, Mozilla Firefox, or Safari. So this is how it works, guys. Now let us not waste any time and let's get started with it. So I'll show you the first code that we are going to execute today. So this is the first code that we are going to use today. Over here what will happen, this will open the website www.python.org, and in the search tab it will search PyCon. So if it is a relevant search, then it will display the search results, or else the test will fail. That's all that this code will do. Now let me explain you each and every line of this particular code. So basically in the beginning you need to import a couple of modules. The Selenium WebDriver module provides all the WebDriver implementations. The currently supported WebDriver implementations are Firefox, Chrome, IE, and Remote. Now after that we need to import the keys class. This keys class provides keys in the keyboard like return, F1, Alt, etc. Alright, so this is why we are importing these two modules. After that we are going to create the instance of the Firefox WebDriver. As you can see that in the bracket I've given an executable path to the driver. So for Firefox we use Gecko driver. So that's why this is nothing but the path to that Gecko driver. And then the driver.get method will navigate to the page that has been given in the URL. So over here we have www.python.org. And after that in the next line, an assertion will be performed to confirm that the title has Python word in it. So this line basically will confirm whether the title contains Python word in it or not. Now before we move forward, let me tell you guys that the WebDriver provides us with a number of ways to find elements, and one of which is find element by name. So over here it will actually search the element by name, that is Q. So the syntax will be driver.find element by name Q. And the next, these three lines, we are actually sending keys. This is similar to entering keys using your keyboard. Special keys can be sent using keys class imported from the Selenium Webdriver.common.keys that you can see it over here. Now before we move forward, we need to first clear any pre-populated text in the input field, so it doesn't affect our search results. So this is what lm.clear will do. Now we are going to send the keys, that is PyCon, that will navigate to the Python website, that is python.org, and in the search tab PyCon will be written. Now after submission of the page, we should get the result if there is any. To ensure that some results are found, we make an assertion again. Assertion, no results found, not in driver.pageSource. Now after that, you need to exit from that particular web browser, maybe Firefox, Chrome, whatever you're using. So for that we write driver.quit. You can even write driver.exit here as well. But driver.quit will close the whole Chrome or the whole web browser that you're using, maybe Firefox as well. But driver.exit will only close that particular tab. So this is how we are going to write a first code. Now what I'll do, I'll open my PyCharm and I'm going to execute this practically. So first let us import the modules that we were talking about. So first I'm going to import the Selenium WebDriver. From Selenium import WebDriver. Then we are going to import the keys class. So for that I'll type from selenium.webdriver.common.keys import keys. Perfect. Now I'm going to create the instance of Firefox WebDriver. So for that I'll write driver equal to webdriver.firefox, and in the parentheses I'm going to write the executable path for my Firefox driver, that is nothing but the Gecko driver I've told you earlier as well. Executable path equal to, let me just copy the path, and now I'm going to use driver.get method that will navigate to a page that will be given in the URL. So I'll write in here driver.get and open and close parentheses, and parentheses I'm going to write the URL, that is http://www.python.org. The next line is an assertion to confirm that the title has Python word in it. So for that I'll write in here as assert Python, and where it should be in title. So I'll write in here driver.title. Alright. Now as I've told you earlier as well that WebDriver offers a number of ways to locate the element, but over here I'm going to use locate the element by name. So let me tell you why I'm going to use that. First let me open this particular website and show you. Now over here when I go and inspect this particular element, you can find here the name is equals to Q. So I'm going to search this particular element with the help of the name that is given here. So I'm going to write here as driver.find element by name, and the name is Q. So that is why I'm going to use it in my code as well. So let me go back to my code and show you that. So over here I'm going to write in lm equals to driver.find element by, you can see it is there for class, CSS selector, ID, link text, name. I'm going to use name Q. Next, what I need to do, I need to send keys. Now this is pretty much similar to entering the keys in your keyboard, but for sending certain special keys, you need to import this particular module, that is keys. So you need to import that in order to send some special keys. But first, let me clear any pre-populated text in the input field. So for that, I'll write in lm.clear. Now I'm going to send the key, that is lm.send keys. So I'm going to send PyCon and then get the return. So I'll write in lm.send keys dot return. Now basically after submission of the page, you should get the result if there is any. But in order to ensure that some results are found, we make use of an assertion. So I'll type in here as assert no result found not in driver.pageSource. Driver.pageSource. And finally, the browser window is closed. So for that, I can call the quit method as well as the close method, but the close method will only close a particular tab in the web browser, whereas the quit method will close the entire web browser, which is Firefox in our case. So let me just call the quit method itself. So I'll type in here as driver.quit. All right. So this is how our code looks like. So let us go ahead and execute this and see what happens. So as you can see, it has automatically opened the web browser, and over here it has searched Python, and yep, it was able to find certain results. So what if I remove this particular line so it will not close my web browser, and you can see that search results as well. So let me go ahead and execute this. Python, and you are going to get all the searches for Python. So we have an event, Python CZ 2017, APAC 2017, Python Amazonia. All right, let's not waste time here, and I'm going to close my browser for now. So this was a pretty basic example, guys. Now what I'll do, I'll actually perform the same task using the unit test module. So let me show you that. First, let me clear all of this. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to import the unit test module first. So I'll type in here unit test. So the unit test module is a built-in Python based on Java's JUnit. This module provides a framework for organizing the test cases. So after that, I'm going to import the Selenium Webdriver, which I've done earlier as well. So I don't need to explain that now. Import Webdriver. And finally, I'm going to import the keys class. So for that, I'll type in from selenium.webdriver.common.keys import keys. All right. So now I'm going to create a test case class. So basically this test case class is inherited from the unit test case. So inheriting from test case class is the way to tell unit test module that this is a test case. So I'm going to type in here as class, and let me name my class as Python org search, and inherit from unit test.test case. So I'll type in unit test.test case. So let us go ahead and write a method in it. So now I'm going to write in here a method that is called setup. So the setup is part of initialization. This method will get called before every test function which you are going to write in the test case class. So basically you are creating the instance of Firefox WebDriver. So self : and over here I'm going to type in self.driver equal to webdriver.firefox and the executable paths which I've told you earlier as well. Let me copy that again. So now I'm going to define a test case method. So the test case method should always start with the characters test. The first line inside this method will create a local reference to the driver object created in the setup method. So let me just show you how to do that. I'll just define that test case method. So I'll name it as test underscore search underscore in underscore Python underscore org and self. So this is what the test case method is, but one important thing that you should notice here is that your test case method should always start with the word test. Now basically the first line inside this method will create a local reference to the driver object created in the setup method, as I've told you earlier as well. So over here I'm going to write in driver equal to self.driver. And now I'm going to use driver.get method to navigate to a page given by the URL. So I'll type in here driver.get http://www.python.org. the next line is basically an assertion to confirm that the title has Python word in it. So for that, I'm going to type in self.assert in Python, comma, where should it search for that? It should be there in driver.title. Now again, I've told you earlier as well that WebDriver provides us with a number of ways to find elements, but over here I'm going to find the element by name. So the syntax for that will be elem equal to driver.find element by name, and which is Q, and I've actually shown you why I'm writing Q here. Let me show it to you again. I'll open my browser, and over here when I inspect, you can see that the name is Q over here. So that's why I've written Q. So now we are going to send the keys like we have done earlier as well. So I won't explain you much about it. I write in here lm.send keys, pycon lm.send keys, keys.return. Now after the submission of the page, you should get the result as per the search if there is any. Now to ensure that some results are found, we need to make an assertion. So I'll type in here as assert no results found, and then not in driver.page source. Now I'm going to create a tear down method. So this tear down method will get called after every test method. So let me create that. So I'll type in here as define tear down. And over here, I'm going to use the quit method that I've told you earlier about it. So I'm going to type in here as self.driver.quit. And now finally what I'm going to do is I am going to write some boilerplate code to run the test suite. So for that, I'll type in if name equal to main, and then call unittest.main. So that's all, guys. So it'll actually perform the same function here that we have done in the previous code as well. So let's move forward, guys, and execute this, and we'll see what happens. So it has started testing, and it has opened the browser as well. It is going to search Python, and yep, all tests have been passed successfully. So this is how you can write tests using Python by importing Selenium Webdriver. Alright, fine, guys. So let us move forward with the presentation. So we saw how to actually search for a particular word in a URL that was www.python.org. Now, as I've told you earlier as well, that there are multiple ways in order to search an element. Now over here, you can notice that we were searching by name. So we'll have a look at those ways one by one. So basically, as I've told you earlier as well, there are various strategies to locate elements in a web page. You can use the most appropriate one for your case. So in the previous case, we were locating the element by name. So you can use this when you know the ID attribute of an element. With this strategy, the first element with the ID attribute value matching the location will be returned. If no element has a matching ID attribute, a no search element exception will be raised. Now, if you have a web page that looks something like this, so over here we know that ID is equal to login form. So if I am locating the element by ID, what I need to write is a variable, and inside that variable I'll write driver.find element by ID and the name of the ID, that is login form. Pretty easy, guys. So we'll move forward and see what are the other ways to locate elements. Now you can even locate the element by name, as we have seen this earlier as well, where we were locating the element by name Q in the previous example. Now you use this when you know the name attribute of an element. So with this strategy, the first element with the name attribute value matching the location will be returned. And again, if no element has a matching name attribute, a no search element exception will be raised. Now for instance, consider the page source that looks something like this, that is there in front of your screen. The username and password elements can be located like this: username equal to driver.find element by name and username, which is the name over here, as you can see. Similarly for password also, you can write driver.find element by name and password. Now let us move forward and see what are the other ways to locate an element. So we can locate elements with the help of XPath as well. What is XPath? XPath is the language used for locating nodes in an XML document. And as we all know, that HTML can be an implementation of XML, that is XHTML. One of the main reasons for using XPath is when you don't have a suitable ID or name attribute for the element you wish to locate. So at that time you can use XPath to either locate the element in absolute terms or relative to an element that does have an ID or name attribute. For instance, consider the page source that is there in front of your screen. Now over here, the form element with attribute named ID and the value login form. If I want to locate that, so for that what I'm going to use is login form driver.find element by XPath, and this is the path for that particular login form. So this is how you can find the element by XPath. So you don't need to worry much about this XPath because I'm going to explain you XPath when I'm showing you a practical example of that. So let's move forward and see what are the other ways. So we can locate the hyperlinks by link test. We use this when we know the link text used within an anchor tag. So with this strategy, the first element with the link text value matching the location will be returned. And again, if no element has a matching link text attribute, a no element exception will be raised. For instance, consider the page source that is there in front of your screen. The continue.html link can be located like this: continue underscore link equals to driver.find element by link text continue. It's pretty easy, guys. Now let's move forward and see what are the other ways. So you can find the element with the help of tag name as well. So you use this when you want to locate an element by a tag name. And with this strategy, the first element with the given tag name will be returned. And again, if no element has a matching tag name, a no such element exception will be raised. For instance, consider the page source that is there in front of your screen. Over here, the heading h1 element can be located like this: heading 1 equals to driver.find element by tag name h1, which is nothing but welcome. So this is how you can locate the h1 tag element. Now let us move forward and see what are the other ways to locate an element. So you can locate the elements with the help of class name as well. And you use this when you want to locate an element by class attribute name. And again, with this strategy, the first element with the matching class attribute will be returned. If no element has a matching class attribute name, a no such element exception will be raised. Consider the page source that is there in front of your screen. So over here, the P element can be located like this: content equals to driver.find element by class name and then content. So these were the ways through which you can locate elements in a particular web page. So let us now move forward and execute an example. Now over here, I'm going to tell you how to check the username and password for Facebook login page. So before that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open the Facebook login page and I'm going to show you how you can do that. Facebook.com. Now over here, I'm going to locate the username and password elements. For that, what I'm going to do is first I'm going to inspect this email ID. And over here, you can see that I can actually find the element with the help of ID as well, and I can find the element by name as well. Similarly, when I do that for password, I can see that I can find this element by pass ID or with the name pass as well. Now let me tell you guys first, let me enter my credentials. So on the left hand side, you can notice that there is an FB logo. So when I go ahead and inspect this, so basically when I have entered the correct credentials, that is my credentials are valid, then I should be able to find this Facebook logo. So I can find this Facebook logo either with the help of class or I can use the XPath as well. So I'm going to use the XPath. So let me exactly show you how the code looks like. I have already copied it and pasted in my PyCharm. So this is how the code looks like. I'll explain you each and everything in detail. First, we are importing the module that is Selenium Webdriver, and I've told you earlier as well why we are importing that in the previous example also. Then we'll import WebDriver wait. This will actually wait until the web page has been loaded. It is used for that purpose. Then we are going to import time and unit test. I've told you unit test as well. And now, as I've told you earlier as well, that the test case class is inherited from the unit test.test case. So inheriting from test case class is the way to tell unit test module that this is our test case. So this is our test case login test. Over here, I've defined a method that is set up and it is part of initialization. This method will be called before every test function which you are going to write in the test case class. So here you are creating an instance for Firefox WebDriver and I've given the executable path for my Gecko driver. Then driver.get method will actually navigate me to the URL that is www.facebook.com. And then this is basically to maximize the window. Now in the next line, so this is basically the test case method, and I've named it as test underscore login. But one important thing here to notice is the test case method should always start with characters test. And the first line inside this method will create a local reference to the driver object created in the setup method. So for that I've written driver equal to self.driver. Then I have defined a couple of variables, Facebook username, this is the username, this is the password, then the email field ID, pass field ID, login button XPath. So this is the XPath for the login button. This is the FB logo XPath that you get after you have entered the correct login credentials. So these are all the variables that I've defined. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to first write email field element, a variable, and then a WebDriver wait driver comma wait for 10 seconds, and then until lambda driver colon driver dot find element by ID email field ID, which is nothing but email. Then similarly find element by ID for pass field ID, that is nothing but pass, that is for password. And then after that we have login button XPath. And then finally we need to clear all the pre-populated searches. For that I'll type email field element dot clear. Then we are going to send keys, that is Facebook username and then Facebook password, and click on login button element. That's all. Then I should be able to find the element by XPath of FB logo, that is I should be able to find the FB logo. Now this tear down method will be called after every test method. This is a place to do all cleanup actions. So you can write here driver.quit method, or you can even use the close method, and I've told you the close method will close only a particular tab in the Firefox, but the quit method will close the entire Firefox. And the final lines are some boilerplate code to run the test suite, that's all. So let us go ahead and execute this and see what happens. Let me first change my Facebook password and write the correct password here. Now let's go ahead and execute this. Instantiating tests. So it has entered the email ID and password and clicked on login button. It was able to find the FB login XPath. So all tests have passed successfully. So this is how you can actually test the Facebook login username and password. So by this we come towards the end of today's session. Thank you and have a great day.